Paterson! Has anybody seen Jason?
Yeah, something weird's going on.
Yeah. Weird.
The apocalypse is coming. Electronics are fizzling out. Night and day comes and goes erratically. And long-buried loved ones are roaming the streets, hungry for human flesh. Everyone's going to die, and the only thing anybody seems to be able to say about it is that it's weird.
Got some weird news of the world.
It's really weird. Shit. I killed him. That was weird.
Welcome to Acolytes of Horror, where we examine the horrors of life through the horrors of film. My name is Nathan, and tonight I'm scared of Jim Jarmusch's The Dead Don't Die. Some violent images and full spoilers ahead, but the plot itself is pretty simple. A synopsis might go something like, a small town does absolutely nothing to prepare for an apocalypse and dies. Maybe you can already see how that isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I loved it. It's the hardest I laughed at a movie all last year, and in 2020 that was very much appreciated. I love when Ronnie kills the zombified Mindy, who he actually had a crush on before, and he just doesn't even blink an eye, and Cliff's like, whoa, 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 and he just does this little shrug like, what? I love that stupid little joke where Zelda sees a Star Destroyer on Ronnie's keychain, and she says,
oh, Star Wars. Excellent fiction.
And he's just like,
oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
I love the scene where the cops are investigating the aftermath of the first zombie attack. And each of the three cops get there separately, and they walk in to look in the carnage separately. At first, Cliff goes in, and it's really upsetting and gory. But then Ron goes in, and they repeat the exact same shots. And then Mindy goes in, and they repeat the shots again. It's this bizarre moment where I'm howling laughing at these grisly shots of gore that only a moment before I was genuinely disturbed by.
What the hell was it? A wild animal? Of several wild animals?
The heck was it? A wild animal? Several wild animals?
Was it a wild animal? Or several wild animals?
Mostly, though, I just love how unique this movie feels. They made so much zombie media in the 2010s, and so much of it reuses so many of the exact same tropes and story structures. The Dead Don't Die is very much its own thing, which might have been its downfall. The box office numbers were disappointing, and the critics were lukewarm. People said it was too silly, it was too self-serious, too pretentious, too irreverent. Chances are you either haven't seen it or didn't like it that much. Nobody's going to watch this video, are they? What makes it go from amusing to amazing for me is this palpable terror and confusion lurking underneath all the deadpan silliness. An aspect that I haven't really seen discussed nearly as much as the comedy in this film. And I think that's a shame, because the movie really expresses a lot of interesting ideas through that presentation, the core of which isn't nearly as bluntly obvious as its zombies equal consumerism / climate change metaphor that the film admittedly does hammer us over the head with sometimes. Let's start there, because I've read so many accusations that the zombies being drawn to their old materialistic obsessions is just something that the Dawn of the Dead done did a lot better. And like, okay, yes, the best zombie movie ever made is better than this zombie movie. And yes, a director in his late 60s trying to write jokes about selfies and Siri works about as well as you'd expect. But there are other uses of the motif that work really well. I love the bit where the first two zombies are gleefully dumping steaming hot coffee on themselves while their mangled victims moan in agony off screen. And the scene with the little kid zombies crying out for candy is genuinely haunting. I really like how human the zombies are. It's a lot more interested in showing echoes of who these zombies used to be than fetishizing how gross and monstrous they've become.
Oh, God. I know those kids.
They're good brothers. They were really good guitar pickers.
Zombie stories almost always brutally punish people for showing empathy for a zombie. So it feels fresh that the movie ends with the two leads facing down not some anonymous horde, but the entire ensemble that we've been spending the last 2 hours getting to know.
Oh, hey, Bobby.
Frank! Hey! Oh, Hank.
I'm so sorry, brother.
I don't know. I've played a lot of zombies in my day, and I never really felt like I was playing a character with a history like these Jarmusch zombies do. I just kind of moaned and flailed around until somebody stabbed me in the head. There are a lot of weirdly beautiful shots of the zombies roaming the empty streets that feel more tragic and empty than horrifying. I just think it's really cool. But of course the zombies are a surprisingly small part of this movie. There's a lot more focus on the living and how easy it is to ignore the warning signs of your own extinction. I love the idea of the apocalypse announcing itself quietly. A lingering sun, a fried phone, something to casually mention over coffee. And the townsfolk of Centerville react just as quietly. Understated performances are kind of Jim Jarmusch's thing. He loves to linger in moments that most movies wouldn't have the patience for. His pauses often have more weight than anything that's actually said.
Hi. Sorry. Sorry about the coffee. Sorry.
Maybe the most extreme example of this is this scene in Stranger Than Paradise, which is a completely wordless minute and a half of our characters just watching a movie. But during that time, you look from one character to the next and reflect on what's going on with each of them. From the girl who just wanted to go on a date, to the guys thoughtlessly intruding on that date, to the poor guy at the end there stuck sharing his popcorn with a total stranger. God, I miss movie theaters. A lot of zombie fans found this movie slow and boring, which I guess I could have predicted. Sometimes it feels like this movie was deliberately engineered to maximize the aggravation of horror fans who just want a nice, blood-soaked movie full of goofy zombie gore. Is that so wrong, Jim? But it's been surprising to see so many Jim Jarmusch fans and critics writing off the Dead Don't Die's deadpan as like, oh, there he goes again, up to his low-energy shtick. There's this kind of misconception of Jim Jarmusch as being like this hip director who'd rather be cool than heartfelt. But he's made some of the most spiritually earnest films this side of Tarkovsky. And I challenge you to show me a single ironic moment in Paterson, an earnest celebration of a man who drives a bus, loves his wife, and writes poetry. I'd actually argue that his dialogue is way more vulnerable than the quippy, sarcastic tone that's common in today's blockbusters. His pauses are full of emotion, and they create a totally different tone in each of his movies. There's the listless boredom of Stranger Than Paradise.
We're not doing anything. Well, what do you want to do?
I don't know.
The focus and devotion of Ghost Dog. The despair of Only Lovers Left Alive. And the peacefulness of Paterson. The pauses of The Dead Don't Die actually reveal it to be, for all of its silliness, his most terrified, angry film. The deadpan creates this atmosphere of absurdity. Yes, it is really funny when Ron looks into a bloody room full of slaughtered people and just goes,
Oh, that's bad.
but more importantly, there's this helpless sense of trying to repress fear because they don't know what else to do with it.
And police are saying that it almost looked like the victims were attacked by a wild animal, or perhaps several wild animals.
I really like the sluggish anxiety of these characters because it matches my own real-life relationship with climate change. I die inside a little bit every time I see an empty water bottle on the ground, or a light that's been left on in an empty room, or any of the dozens of daily reminders that most people aren't taking this threat very seriously. But even if I pick up that water bottle or turn off
Sorry.
Even if I pick up that water bottle or turn off that light, I've still done nothing to stop the corporations from donating millions of dollars to climate change denying politicians, even as they run PR campaigns bragging about how green they are. At a certain point, you just shrug and give up. Like, bring on the zombies. Eat me. I don't care. The only one who seems appropriately terrified is Mindy, and even her fear manifests as denial.
Shouldn't we be telling each other that it's all gonna be okay? That this will all go away like a bad dream? Ronnie?
Gee, Mindy, I'm not sure I can say that.
Cliff? Please?
It's all gonna be okay, Mindy. Maybe it'll all just go away like a bad dream.
I doubt it.
The movie does have its didactic moments sometimes, especially the spoken word poem overlaying the final showdown. I actually really love the musicality of it, and parts of the poem are really great. Like, Tom Waits totally nails it.
I guess all them ghost people plumb lost their goddamn souls. Must have traded them away or sold them for gold or whatnot. Oh, down they go. A sad end of Cliff and Ronnie.
But when he starts ranting specifically about new trucks, new trousers, Game Boys, while fading in an image of a guy stroking his truck, it's like, okay, Jim, okay, we get it, buddy. But overall, I think it's really compassionate about our complacency. The sin most of these characters commit is the sin of minding their own business. It's ridiculous that they just sit around making small talk while the world goes to hell. But how many times have I fretted about climate change with somebody and then just changed the subject to whatever video game I'm playing right now?
Look, the Earth off its axis. That's bad news. This is for you right here, for your collection.
Okay, so in this movie, the apocalypse is caused by something called polar fracking, a ridiculous term that I still really hope doesn't give some CEO any brilliant ideas. Some of the best social commentary in the movie is when the media is giving these energy companies all this airtime to deny that polar fracking is harming anything, even as the world burns down around them.
Listen, these alarmists are dangerous liars. Let's not believe something just because one so-called scientist says it's true. Polar fracking has created fantastic jobs, big profits, and energy for our great country. Let's not forget our priority.
Caused by the polar fracking.
But the authorities and energy people keep saying that's not true.
But nobody in the movie actually takes part in any of the polar fracking or seems particularly invested in defending the systems that cause it. Consumerism doesn't seem to come from within the way it does in something like The Dawn of the Dead.
You never know.
It's ours. We took it. It's
It's ours.
In The Dead Don't Die, it feels more like an external threat being forced on them by people who exist only on TV or the radio. Villains which nobody has ever met, ruining their lives in ways that nobody knows how to fight or even understand.
Big profits and energy for our great country. Let's not forget our priority.
What you think, Fern?
I don't know, Hank. Shouldn't it be getting dark out?
You can only listen to so many lies about something that, despite all the evidence, kind of feels like it's happening somewhere else before you just start to go numb after a while. I think one of the reasons people complain about the movie being slow is that nobody's driving the action here. They're all just observers waiting for a protagonist to show up and save them. Which is what I love so much about the character of Tilda Swinton. I mean, Zelda Winston. When we meet her, she's practicing her skills with a samurai sword. Jim Jarmusch fans will recognize a callback to Ghost Dog here, who's probably the closest thing to a traditional action hero that he's ever written. When the zombies first attack her, she very casually chops their heads off and then proceeds to breeze her way through the rest of the movie like an overpowered video game character.
I'm quite confident of my ability to defend myself against the undead.
Well, I can see that.
In a normal zombie movie, this is the hero who shows up and saves people. It's funny that she winds up being an alien, but I don't think that's just some random choice to get a laugh. It underlines how unrealistic those expectations are. And most importantly, she doesn't save anybody. She hails a UFO and ditches them. Most zombie media celebrates individualism. It's a structure where society has fallen apart and it's all up to your wit and ingenuity and oftentimes savagery to stand up on your own. But in The Dead Don't Die, the limits of American individualism are on full display. Even though the entire movie is largely set in public spaces, cemeteries, diners, workplaces, when the shit hits the fan, everybody bunkers down separately, and they all pay for it with their lives. In a welcome subversion of the trope of the hero cop, Cliff, Ron, and Mindy never help anybody. There's even an explicit moment where they save themselves instead of trying to rescue a friend.
Should we try to get him out?
Cliff, we're drawing some attention.
Oh, God, Cliff. Please get us out of here.
Some of the fiercest hate for this movie was about its relentless meta humor. Early on, a song plays on the radio, a sleepy country song written for this movie called The Dead Don't Die by Sturgill Simpson, and Cliff's like, "What is this?" And Ron goes, "It's The Dead Don't Die by Sturgill Simpson."
Why does it sound so familiar?
Well, because it's the theme song.
The song keeps coming back again and again and again, and every time it does, everything has to stop so somebody can call attention to it.
The Dead Don't Die. I love this song.
One, she's down the road. Oh, that's a really good CD. Sturgill Simpson, The Dead Don't Die.
Yeah, I know. I love this song.
Sturgill Simpson.
Sturgill Simpson.
Oh, the dead.
Great song.
I can't hear that song anymore without laughing or rolling my eyes, or sometimes both. And then there's another recurring bit on top of that where Ron keeps repeating, "This isn't going to end well," over and over.
Man, this isn't gonna end well, Cliff.
If you ask me, this whole thing's gonna end badly. This isn't gonna end well. This is definitely gonna end badly. But I've been telling you this is all gonna end badly.
God damn it, Ronnie.
This is admittedly a dangerous tool to play with, especially for a director who's already misunderstood as this detached hipster. Meta-humor can sometimes feel like the movie is just rubbing in your face how smart it thinks it is by pointing out its own moviness. It can be easy to be distracted from maybe some deeper goals the filmmaker might have by using these techniques. Cliff can't stand any of it.
This is all going to end badly. What does that mean?
And he can't stand the theme song either. The loudest confrontations in the whole movie are Cliff reacting to these jokes.
Oh, God. Not that again. God damn it. I can't take any more. Shut up, Ronnie!
How did you know everything in advance?
You really want to know?
Yes! I want to know. I really want to know.
Okay. I know because I've read the script.
The whole script?
I'm kind of fascinated by how these jokes annoyed so many people, because these days it's hard to find a comedy that doesn't have meta humor.
What am I going to do? Get a bunch of criminals together to fight the criminals? That's a stupid idea.
Maybe this is just a reflection of how social media and YouTube have conditioned audiences to participate in their entertainment. Meta humor is kind of the joke equivalent of a reaction video. Stepping back that acknowledges not just the existence of the story, but also the audience. But even in something like Deadpool, if you took all that away, it would still be a complete story. The Dead Don't Die is different because the meta is the movie.
Was that in the script?
The actual climax of the film is two actors complaining about the director before going to their deaths as scripted, before a voiceover explicitly tells us, "The zombies are a metaphor. This is a movie about how we aren't doing enough to fight consumerism and climate change. Yes, I'm talking to you."
Was that in the script?
It feels very Brechtian to me. On the off chance you aren't a theater major for some reason, Bertolt Brecht was a Marxist playwright whose plays relentlessly called attention to their own artificiality to destroy the... To destroy the audience's emotion. Right. Okay, I'll just start. Whose plays relentlessly called attention to their own artificiality to destroy the audience's immersion in the story. Fuck. Can I just... We'll just do voiceover, I guess, for this part. To destroy the audience's immersion in the story. He would spoil how scenes were going to end ahead of time. Stagehands would call attention to themselves while they changed the set. Actors would repeat the same gesture instead of emoting naturally, and scenes would be arranged episodically instead of having a clear cause and effect. His hope was that by disrupting the audience's suspension of disbelief, they would be encouraged to think about the message of the play without being distracted by their empathy for the characters. When I was a new actor, I legitimately did, like, anytime I had to do something with a lot of emotion, but I didn't know what to do with my body, I'd be like, to be or not to be. That has no point to anything.
Yeah, Jim gave me the whole script.
He only gave me our scenes.
I think Jim Jarmusch is going for something similar with the meta-humor, deadpan performances, and loosely structured narrative of The Dead Don't Die. Of course, when you're deliberately alienating your audiences, you run the risk of frustrating people who expect stories to seduce them instead of holding them at a distance. Even Brecht's plays are really hard to pull off. I don't know, though. I think it's really funny that a lot of people reacted to these conventions the same way that Cliff does.
What a dick.
Like everyone else, Cliff doesn't really have a strong reaction to all the carnage and chaos.
This is really awful. Maybe the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, sure is.
But he's really disturbed by the idea that he's just playing out a script that's already written. And don't we kind of hate being constantly reminded of our own impending apocalypse? Am I just making the movie's point when I roll my eyes at how preachy the ending can feel? We've heard it all before countless times. This isn't going to end well. This isn't going to end well. This isn't going to... In a movie where everyone is just a passive observer, the ones who survive are the outsiders who observe the observers. The kids locked up in juvie don't have any stuff to protect, so they just run. Hermit Bob lives in the woods, far away from the eternally consuming feasts of first the living and then the undead. It's a bleak portrait of this system we've constructed, where the only way to live a life apart from consuming and consuming and consuming is to either live in the woods, which is largely illegal, or to already be incarcerated. The only way to live a life apart from consumerism is to become a criminal. For Cliff and Ron, it's too late. There's no way to rewrite the script. All they can do is, as they say,
We gotta give it our best shot.
Our best shot. Okay. Yeah.
They die as predicted, consumed by their neighbors, who in turn were consumed by a life they never chose or resisted.
What a fucked up world.